I'm Michele B, and I'm teaching you all about tarot reading. I'm going to do segments every week to keep you learning, plugging along on how to read the tarot. This week I'm working on teaching you about the tarot deck as we use it for divination and not for game playing. In the US, we have a playing card deck that we use. It's got you got your numbered pit cards, and then you got the court cards, and they're set along the elements of the suits, which is the diamonds, the hearts, the clubs, the spades. For divination, we have this deck that was used back in the Middle Ages in Europe, and it was used for game playing. And then eventually people thought we can use it for divination, just like they've used the bottoms of the tea leaves for divination, or they'd have a couple of bones that they'd shake up and then look into the way that they fell and intuitively divine some kind of story out of it, some kind of fortune telling out of it, essentially. So yeah, it started as a game playing tool, and then turned into something that you could use for getting in touch with your intuition and being able to tell things that were going on and get bigger stories that you weren't really fully aware of with your conscious mind. It helps you tune into your subconscious mind. So I'm going to talk about how the tarot deck works in the Rider Waite. I prefer to use the Rider Waite deck right now for myself instead of using oracle cards or other people's renditions of it, because I just like the traditional motif of it. And that's where a lot of the Rider Waite deck was created at the beginning of the 20th century, and a lot of our ideas about tarot stem from that, like new age tarot decks that have been coming out in the last 40 or 50 years, especially in the last couple of decades, are all based really on the themes that come from the Rider Waite deck. So real quick, I'm going to backtrack and talk about the way that I learned how to read the tarot. 25 years ago, I was a teenager, and I thought that anything occult was pretty darn cool, and I'd heard this is how, like, I used to stick to rules, but I don't so much anymore. I'd heard that you weren't allowed to just buy your own deck, that the deck wouldn't work right if you just bought it for yourself. So I decided to draw my own deck, and so I got a poster board and I cut it out into little rectangles, and I had a little tarot reading book, and I drew my own deck. And so that's how I learned how to use the tarot, was from that little book that I got from my local little hole-in-the-wall witch store. And so I understood the way that the tarot works from that. It was sort of like drawing my own cards was like journaling. And you know how some people are trying to, or I advise using a journal to talk about your experience of each card as you're studying them. So it was kind of like that. I got to fully immerse myself with each card as I was creating it, but I did not learn how to read intuitively. I knew how to read from the book. So I was just reading stiffly, coldly. I didn't really, whenever I did readings for other people, they're like, I don't really know what you're talking about. It's like an empress came up for a gentleman. It was like, no, you're not going to get pregnant, but that's the card that's there, right? And he's like, I'm gay, honey. There's no way I'm going to get a girl pregnant. So it just wasn't working, right? And my intuition wasn't connected with it yet, because I didn't know that I could make something up from it, that I could listen to my subconscious mind and practice getting my subconscious mind stronger and stronger in order to be able to intuit something in particular to that person and the question that they had. But once you are acquainted with the imagery and you're in tune with your intuition, it's okay to know what the way that the systems work within the tarot. So that's where I'm going right now. First things first, it's most important to use your intuition. If you're looking at the image in the cards, the image in the card, and it's telling you one thing, but the book definition is telling you something else, always listen to your intuition first. Okay, so now that I've said that, let me go ahead and explain the way that the tarot works. So we've got Major Arcana and we've got Minor Arcana. The Major Arcana is like an overarching story, a big picture story of the cycles of people's lives. Okay, each card represents one aspect on the ups and downs of the cycle of life, of the cycles of life. Because there's like, you go through, as you're working through your life, you have challenges and then you overcome them and you're happy. And then something comes up and you have a challenge and you overcome it and you're happy. And it's like it goes from the beginning to the end, and then it starts over again, and then there's another cycle and it goes around and around and around. And those are 22 cards. I might think eventually I'm going to do a recording where I go through each one and talk about them, about my definitions of them, not necessarily what anybody else's definitions, because I have different ideas about what each card means based on my own life experience compared to other readers. Okay. Then there's the Minor Arcana, which is what I'm really going to be focusing on in this reading, or I'm sorry, in this video, is I'm going to be focusing on the Minor Arcana, which are arranged, like I said, as the pip cards, which are the 1 through 10, and then the court cards, which include the Knight, the Page, the Queen, and the King. And then there are 4 suits, which go according to elements. And those are the Wand. Let's see what I wrote here in my notes. We got the fire element, which is either represented by a wand, a baton, or a club. It's like something that you use to point or to hit, right? We've got the earth element, which is represented by pentacles, coins, discs, or rings. These are circular things, right? And yeah, it represents the root, the earth, the material, your possessions, the things that you can tangibly hold. Then we have the water element. That's the third element. It's represented by cups, chalices, anything that can hold things. It represents the heart, the love, the emotions. And then we have the air element, represented by the swords. That's making decisions, using your mental abilities, using your logic, using your reason, using your mind. And that also is communication. And you have to use your mind in order to tell your throat to speak, right? So those things go together. The solar plexus, like I said, with the fire element, is all about the creativity, the passion, and the will. I don't think I mentioned that when I was talking about the fire element. So all 4 of those suits have 10 pip cards, 1 through 10, plus they have the Knight, the Page, and the Queen and the King. Now you have your 4 groupings that represent your will, the things that you want to do, the things that you desire, the things that you're passionate about. They represent the earth, that is your physical body, your possessions, your sexuality. That's the thing that creates, sexuality creates things, right? You have the water element, which is the tears coming out, your heart, your emotions, how you feel, right? And then you have the air element, which is thinking and speaking, okay? I think that there's so much more to that, and in our day-to-day lives, we find the way that these archetypes, these elements, they can overlap with each other. But we're compartmentalizing just for the sake of the tarot, right? Now, there's numerology in that 1 through 10 of each of the suits. We have the numerology that's involved. Now, I do want to have a caveat about that, just like a little something else I want to say about that, is that for each of the elements, for each number in each one of the elements, there is an exception for every single one of them. So we have for the 2 of Wands, 2 of Pentacles, 2 of Cups, and 2 of Swords. When I tell you what the overarching numerological meaning is, there's like one of those cards doesn't fit that at all. So I might go through it and explain it later on. But there's always one that doesn't fit that numerological ideal. Okay, but I'm just going to go over numerology really quick, like a simple numerology, 1 through 10, and that will help you to be able to kind of identify what each number represents as you're going through. So we've got the number 1, or the ace in the cards, is initiative, starting or beginning or using your mind. Okay, so number 2 is harmony and balance, coming together, two people, making a decision between this thing and that thing, and also your psychic abilities and your intuition. Number 3 represents communication and creativity. I speak it, therefore it is, right? Also building and progressing towards something. I identify it so much as creating something, like taking something from the mind and putting it into a physical form. And then number 4 represents the 4 posts of stability. Also, it means commitment and being grounded and like working steadily towards something significant. And then we've got number 5 is represented by impulsivity, self-expression, like doing something from the spirit. The spirit is like, do it now. The 5 is represented by that. Number 6 represents healing, empathy, and caretaking. Number 7 is investigating, analyzing, second-guessing, questioning, wondering, using your mind, right? To take things apart. And number 8 is double the 4, which is double stability. So stable, so abundant, so stable that you create abundance, and then you're looking at the big picture and you're seeing how you can put it back, put all of your extra abundance back into the system to grow and grow and grow. So it's about giving back to others, having extra stability, having lots of abundance, and it's about big movement going outward from you. Number 9 is about spiritual awareness. All like I'm thinking, when I think of 9, I think of Maslow's pyramid of needs, and every need as you go up has been satisfied, and the last thing, like after your physical body has been satisfied, you really need to start getting into the spiritual aspects. And so it represents going through the cycle and getting to the old age and coming to the point where you just kind of want to know about what the spirit's all about. And it's like there's just one last thing that you need before completion, and that's the complete spiritual awareness. And then number 10 represents completion, finishing, and it also represents a legacy, something that you leave behind when you're gone. So those, like I said, those are the pip cards and the number and the numbers. And so when you pair a certain representation of a number with the representation of an element, you get a theme. So let's look at what I have here real quick. And so we've got the 4 of Swords. And when I look at this one, we've got the 4, which represents stability, being grounded, being committed. And then we have the Swords, which is the air, the head, the mind. It's saying everything's okay and you can rest your mind. Give yourself a chance to take a break, and you can go back to that mental chess game that you were at. But you have to take a little bit of a break and re-strategize your plan. Right now, things are safe, and you can take a break, okay? And number 2 of Wands. So we got the 2, which is all about decision-making, using your intuition, being in a place of harmony. And then we've got the fire element, which is all about your creativity, your passion, your will. And so the 2 together, it's like, how do I use my passion to do all the things that I want to do? I've got multiple things that I want to do. I'm really excited about it, and I need to make some decisions on how to balance it. Okay? Yikes. I hope he doesn't come roaring this way. Okay, so, and now we're going to look at the court cards. We're going to look at the pages. Okay, first of all, I should say the court cards usually indicate a person or a personality. Like they're personality archetypes that are actually representative of a person in your life, in the story of the spread that you're trying to set up. But it can also represent a quality that the deck is trying to point out to you, a personality quality that the deck would like you to embrace. Okay. Okay, so we're going to start with the pages. These are the young people of the tarot. They're represented by princes, princesses, or jacks. Essentially, they represent, these are the four elements. We got wands, cups, pentacles, and swords. And they represent like someone who is inexperienced, someone who is ignorant, someone who is an apprentice, someone who is learning how to do new things, someone who's willing to be vulnerable. So of course we can think of positive and negative aspects for each of these cards, for each of the representation of those. Next we have the queens, and we've got the Queen of Wands, Queen of Pentacles, Queen of Swords, and Queen of Cups. They represent the divine feminine, the divine mother, the receiver, the nurturing, the allower, someone who is, you know, interestingly, like in a period where in the Western world we're questioning gender so much, always keep in mind that in every person, no matter which gender you specifically identify with, we are always a balance of feminine and masculine. So we have archetypes within our culture of what is feminine and what is masculine. And so in the divine feminine, there is the cup that receives, like the uterus, the cup that receives, right? And so she allows, she receives, she brings things in, she holds them, she nurtures them. Whereas the king, let's get my kings up here. Whereas the kings are the go-getters, right? So it represents the divine father, who is the giver, the provider, the action taker, the protector. His energy is going outward, whereas the divine feminine, the energy is going inward. So we got the King of Swords, we got the King of Pentacles, we got the King of Cups, and we got the King of Wands represented here. Now, so those are the personalities, but the knights are something a little bit different. They can represent personalities to a degree, but mostly they're representing the energy in which something is coming at you, or going from you. Like, I want to go do this, or something's coming in toward you. So it's like an energy that's flowing back and forth. So there's the swords, which is communication and the mental space. And like, look at his energy. It's moving really fast and aggressively because it's all in the mental space. So it flows quickly. It's air, so it goes quickly. And yeah, somebody can have a really bad attitude and have a bone to pick with you. That's represented by the Knight of Swords. We've got the Knight of Wands, which is fiery, passionate, quick to run in, and he's also really quick to run back out. So that can represent a certain personality aspect as well. And then we've got the King of Cups, which is kind of trotting along slowly, and he's offering a cup to someone else, right? So, you know, of course, it's like messages of love coming in, someone coming in kind of with romantic energy. And then we've got the King of Pentacles, who is the slowest moving, but he's also usually bringing good news. It's like, yeah, it's slow, but it is moving, right? He's just grounded, earthly, plugging away very slowly, very carefully. So those are the court cards. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Major Arcana. And I did write a little ditty here because like my mind just doesn't work really well, and just like saying things right off the cuff. Sometimes I have to write it down in order to come across the way I really want to. So just let me read this little excerpt that I wrote about the way that the hero's journey pertains to the Major Arcana of the Tarot. Joseph Campbell, who is an anthropologist specializing in cultural anthropology, wrote in 1949 about a common thread in mythologies all over the world, in which the hero is called to action, takes a journey, passes tests and trials, and returns as a hero. And that's what he called the hero's journey. And stories such as the original set of films for the Star Wars trilogy was compared to the hero's journey, because Luke Skywalker has to go through all these trials and tribulations and ends up coming out as a hero in the end, and becomes the master coming from like this farm boy and turning into a knight or a master. So in life, we are all heroes of our own adventures. So we compare ourselves to these heroes. So our own adventures are big and small, and we're constantly being called to action to level up in our own spiritual ascension, no matter how subtle or subdued or simple our lives seem to be. We are being called to action, to take a level up, to do things that are scary, and to face our challenges and come out as a winner on the other side, right? The Major Arcana depicts an epic tale with its ups and downs, and we can at any time identify with a card in this story as part of our story. So if you're shuffling the deck and you pull out a Major Arcana card, it represents like one little aspect of your big story. Okay, but so that's a little bit of background about my philosophy about how the Major Arcana works. But real quick, I'm going to run through these. I'm not going to give you any actual descriptions. I might do that on another video. There's just not enough time on this one. So I cut the segments so that I can remember them better into phase 1 and phase 2 in the hero's journey. All right. So we start out with and then we have the two outliers. The two outliers are the Fool and the World. The World represents it's time to transition to a new phase, right? Completion, right? Time to do a new phase. And the 0, the Fool, represents waiting for a new phase to begin. And so this is like first this one, and then this is like the gestation of a new phase, okay? So we have that. Then we start going through number 1 through 10, represented by the Magician, the High Priestess, that's number 2, and number 3 is the Empress, number 4, the Emperor, number 5, the Hierophant, number 6, the Lovers, number 7, the Chariot, number 8, Strength, number 9, the Hermit, and number 10, the Wheel of Fortune. And if you desire so, you can equate all those numerology ideas, concepts, into the way that those first 10 of the tarot work. And you can do the same thing with the next segment, but you have to add the numbers together if you want to do that. I don't take that kind of time. I just look at the pictures. I kind of know the general definition of each card, and so I put my intuition and the general definition together, and I go from there. So phase 2 is Justice. That's number 11. Number 12 is the Hanged Man. Number 13 is Death. Number 14, Temperance. Number 15, the Devil. Number 16, the Tower. Number 17, the Star. And here we're getting into the celestial bodies here. Number 18, the Moon. Number 19, the Sun, okay? And then number 20, Judgment. See these two together? 10 and 20, the ends of cycles, right? And then 21 is the end of the big cycle. And then the cycle starts over again, back up to the Fool. So it's like a big circle. Think of it that way. All right, so let's talk about reversals real briefly before I finish up. This is my attitude about reversals. Because some people say, well, the reverse is the opposite of the upright definition. And sometimes I go with that. Sometimes I look at it like, whereas you look at the upright version of the card, and it gets literally translated that way, right? Like this is a young person with a big attitude that thinks they're going to come in and they're going to like tell someone else what to do. And then on the reverse, I might say this person's afraid to be doing that, like they're being held back. I generally tend to go more in that direction if it's in the reverse. I go, okay, well, this person is afraid of doing that. Another way of looking at it is that every card has an affirmation. In the positive, it's like the affirmative version, and in reverse, it's the negative of it. Either way, I just intuitively feel it. Sometimes it doesn't matter which orientation it takes. I'm always going for the affirmative affirmation, the positive affirmation. And then other times I'm like, wait, this means something with it being in reverse this time. This means like we need to look at coming in through this situation, going in the back door, you know. Go a little bit deeper, look at some shadow aspects of why someone thinks that way, you know. So you're going to have to feel that whole reversal out for yourself. So in future readings, I'm going to be looking at different ways of shuffling, different kinds of spreads. We'll be looking more in detail about the lore of each of the major arcana, and we'll just keep going from there week after week. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I've been Michele B. Make sure and check out my weekly, monthly, and just general readings that I put out on a regular basis. It will help you become more familiar with the way that the tarot works and give you more confidence. When you see the way that I just come up with stuff intuitively, you'll feel a lot more comfortable with being intuitive in your readings as well. So I love you, and I'll see you later. Mwah! Bye.